Good evening and welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football. I'm Tony Altimore, and in just a minute, I'm going to be joined by the guys, and we are here tonight to talk about another week of Pac-12 football. Now, once again, guys, this show is for you guys. It's not just for us. This is for you guys. So we want to engage with you guys. We hope you'll engage with us in a couple different ways. First, if you guys want to call in the show, we're going to go through the games of the week, and then we want to hear from you. And so we'll put a link up in the chat as well as in the description, and we want to hear from you guys about what you think. Second, you can engage with us via the actual chat window. So type it in, and we'll be monitoring that, and we'll chat with you guys. Third, and options for anybody who is either after the show or something like that, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. You see our Twitter handles are right there directly on the screen, and we'll be monitoring those and love to chat with you guys. And you can always ask questions and help steer the conversation, either using super chats or reaching out to us directly via Venmo or PayPal or something. And that goes to help support this Voice of College Football community. So we are so grateful to Mark Rogers and everybody else who makes it possible, and excited to have you guys with us here this week to chat about the Pac-12. And what a week it's been. Guys, welcome to the show. We got Tim, Rick, and Chris.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Well, guys, it's going to be another big week in the conference. What are we looking forward to most?
I think probably clearly the biggest game that I'm looking at is going to be the showdown with the rivalry between the Pacific Northwest schools, Washington and Oregon. I know there's a couple of good games on, some cupcake games, but in particular, there's two that I'm looking at, and that definitely is taking front stage.
Yeah, I'm looking at that game. That's the only game. Oregon at Washington. Oregon's on a roll right now, and Washington just had a big win against Oregon State. This is a border war. They don't like each other. And I'm also interested in seeing what Arizona can do to UCLA, what they're going to do there. I know UCLA and their fans are upset at the college football rankings. I agree. I posted on my Twitter beforehand. I had UCLA at 8 and USC at 9 and Ole Miss at 10. I didn't even have Clemson in there. I had Clemson in the top 12. But we can get in that a little bit later today. I think Chris might have some choice words.
We'll see.
He always does.
What's interesting is the closest spread is actually like Arizona State at Washington State as an 8-point game. But obviously the game everyone cares about the most is that Washington Oregon game, and it's definitely the only one that has or should have implications on who's going to the conference championship, right? It's only one that you would think has a possibility of having implications like that. But of course, we'll get into that game more specifically when we get there.
Yeah, the Arizona State, Washington State was the other game I was talking about. Other than that, I think we might be all in agreement on the winners.
All right, guys. And for those of you guys who don't know, I'm currently right here in South Florida, right in the path of Hurricane Nicole, which is about to hit us in about the next hour. So if I disappear, I hope to reappear. We'll see what happens with the power and Comcast. So here we go. So, guys, looking at the games coming up, why don't we hit our first one, which I think is going to be pretty interesting. We've got Washington State with friend of the show, Chancellor Chilton, is bringing the Arizona State Sun Devils to town. What is going to happen out when we get kind of the desert versus the Palouse?
Rick, do you want to go first since you switched the order up last week? We'll go Rick, me, Tim.
Sounds great. This is going to be an interesting game. Let's look at the weather report. Not very windy, 10-mile-per-hour winds. It's going to be 37 degrees. It's a 12:30 local Pacific time kickoff. So it is going to be cold up there. And I believe Arizona State, I don't know if Emory Jones is back. Their backup, I can't pronounce his name.
I'm pretty sure he's just won that job. I could be wrong, but I think he's just better and he's just playing. Yeah, I think they're just playing the walk-on. I don't think Emory Jones is like the health is the issue. I think he's just playing over him.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a challenge for Arizona State. It's a long road trip. It's a challenging place to play. A lot of people that are viewers that are not familiar with the Pac-12, we get all types of weather. And this one, Martin Stadium up in the Palouse, is going to be it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a little chilly for them, but it's not really going to matter because Washington State is going to just destroy Arizona State. Arizona State's playing for nothing. Washington State, if they get this win, they will be bowl eligible, and they'll add to the 6 teams that are in the Pac-12 that are bowl eligible. They'll be lucky number 7. So I see Washington State win this by about 13 points.
So Arizona State was down against UCLA when we played them last week, 35-10 at one point. But to their credit, didn't really quit. Like as a 3-6 team with an interim head coach, like you could see a team like that, just kind of going, like just looking at the clock, waiting to go home. But they didn't really ever quit. They're sitting at 3-6, and yeah, they'd have to go undefeated over their next 3 at Washington State versus Oregon State and at Arizona to make a bowl game. I don't see that happening. Like you said, Rick, Washington State's 5-4, so has the opportunity to be bowl eligible with the win here. Then they have the Arizonas before their big game. They have the other Arizona, and then they have the Apple Cup. I think ASU actually has the potential to hang in this game a little bit. Their running back's decent. They've been a lot better with that backup walk-on quarterback than they have been with Emory Jones. And if Ward doesn't play well, which he's capable of doing, then I think Arizona State can hang around. But ultimately, I think Wazoo punches its bowl game ticket in this game and wins, like you said.
Yeah, I'm with both of you guys. Here's the thing: you got a top 50 defense up at Wazoo, playing at home against Arizona State, who has done a great job, and with an interim coach keeping the team together. But I really just feel that it's going to be a situation where you have one defense that, again, is probably the top half of the Pac-12, and then you got an Arizona State defense, which has a number of athletes, but unfortunately, they're just traveling on the road up in the Palouse. Won't keep it close. I think that they're going to win comfortably, at least by 2 scores.
I think you guys are actually probably right on the nose with this one. Arizona State is looking better and better. Would not surprise me if they find a way to win, but I think Wazoo gets the win in the end. All right, moving on. Now there's a special award. So Washington State had a really nice win last night. And as you guys know, LBC Trojan is a craft beer expert, worked in marketing with the craft beer industry for many, many years, and is a craft beer guru. So this is no sponsorship, this is LBC's expert picks for every Pac-12 team, but when they earn it. LBC, talk to us about Wazoo. What did they earn, and what should they be drinking to celebrate?
Thanks, Tony. So for those that may be new to this show, welcome. Thank you. One of the great things about the Pac-12 is there might be people that question the football that's out here or can't see it or don't want to see it, but we have the greatest footprint for craft beer, hands down. So we like to have a lot of fun on this show, and what goes better, what goes well with football, college football, but great beer, good craft beer. And so Washington State, they are all about fun, and they destroyed Stanford in their own home. 52 points they put on them. So going to give them a special beer. This is a local Spokane brewery. It's known as Northern Lights, but the locals call it No Lie Brew House, and this is their Wrecking Ball. It's a stout. And this is the perfect weather for stout. I'm actually having one right now. Not a Wrecking Ball, but a stout from a different brewery in San Diego, because it's been raining. It's kind of been the weather like the Pacific Northwest. But this is a 5 different types of malts and hops. It's got 50 IBUs, 9.5%, hints of brown sugar, chocolate, superior beer to celebrate if you're a Coug, going in there and having fun in Palo Alto while Stanford cannot have fun. So cheers.
Cheers to the Cougs. So, guys, definitely, if you're up in that area, check it out. The Wrecking Ball Imperial Stout sounds delicious, and Cougs, you have earned that from LBC Trojan. And just a lot of you guys have seen it, but if you haven't, we have on the Mark Rogers Voice of College Football channel a phenomenal interview with the Queen Coug herself, CEO Chancellor Elizabeth Chilton. Just amazing lady, guys. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Mark's channel. Take a look. So, our next game, guys, is sort of our adopted Pac-12 team, Notre Dame, who USC's got coming up. Now, we made a promise last week when we all thought Notre Dame, other than Rick, we thought Notre Dame was going to get slaughtered. And we told a friend of the show, Will ND, that we were going to put him in a Photoshop into a leprechaun costume and put him on a throne, either a toilet drop and a deuce or the king's throne if they won. And sure enough, they won. So there is Will ND getting ready to go. They're going to, guys, this is not a normal game. Notre Dame is doing one of their special games. They're playing Navy in Baltimore at the Ravens Stadium. So it's going to be kind of a cool game. What do we think? Can the Middies get it done, or does Notre Dame pull it off like they usually do?
Well, this is a somewhat of a rivalry game. It's a regular opponent for Notre Dame, and Navy's not having a great year. They lost the Commander-in-Chief trophy. That's one of the main goals for a service academy team. The reason I know that is my brother is an Air Force Academy grad, and he's all stoked that the Air Force beat Army and Navy. And but Notre Dame is on some momentum right now. Yes, I predicted that they would go up to the Qs and beat Syracuse when they were ranked, I believe, 16. And then I put all my chips on the table last weekend and rode the momentum, because I really didn't believe in Clemson, and I believed in shaking down the thunder and the echoes awakening. And
you woke them up.
It's going to be there. And now Notre Dame is 6-3 and they're number 20. They're not going to lose this game, and Notre Dame is going to put a number on Navy. I see Notre Dame winning by 21 points.
Yeah, so if I'm being honest with you, I have never watched Navy this year. I don't know anything about them. It's interesting. You look at their record and whatnot, and I don't know how the game's exactly played out, but they happened to only lose at Cincinnati 20-10 and at SMU 40-34. So it seems like they've had, even though they're 3-6, it seems like a couple of times they've had a pulse. But a couple of the model sites like Sagarin have them at 94th in the country. And for reference, Stanford is 73rd. So the analytics math people don't seem to think Navy is very good. The record doesn't seem to indicate they're very good. So I'll keep Notre Dame to keep it going off of that big win against Clemson.
Tim, you're on mute.
I'll keep it short. If Notre Dame was able to control line of scrimmage against Clemson, they're going to control line of scrimmage against Navy. Notre Dame wins easily.
I think you're right, Tim.
Triple option or not?
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, because this is a team that lost to Marshall, but I think Notre Dame has kind of found their mojo. They've slaughtered. They lost to Stanford unbelievably, but I mean, this is a team that's basically won the ACC. There are three good teams in the ACC, and Notre Dame whipped all three of them. So I think Notre Dame comes up pretty solidly and beats Navy there. So, and to folks asking why do we cover Notre Dame? Notre Dame plays half the pack, and Notre Dame's going to have a big role in what goes on with the pack in a couple weeks. So we cover Notre Dame as well. And actually, Notre Dame, by the way, guys, tried to join the pack in 1958 and almost did, along with Army, Navy, and Air Force, very interestingly. And we'll talk a little bit more about where you can learn about that a little later on. So another interesting game here, guys. Stanford goes up to Rice-Eccles, the treeless Stanford, as the Stanford tree remains in exile. So for those of you guys who don't know, friend of the show, the Stanford tree, who we've actually had on our show before, is currently suspended because he had a banner that said Stanford hates fun. And Stanford showed that they do indeed hate fun by then suspending the tree. So anybody around Stanford, you are on our list because this show believes free the tree. So guys, is Stanford going to get what's coming to them when they go play Utah? Or might they pull another upset like Notre Dame?
This is going to be a fun game for Utah. They just rolled Arizona, and Utah's playing well. Don't really know the health of Cam Rising, but he did play last week. They are a little dinged up with the tight ends, but Utah always seems to have guys that can step up. They're well coached, and they're going to roll at home at night. Stanford just doesn't have the athletes to compete with Utah. Utah has morphed into the team that Stanford was 5 years ago. They're tough. They're physical. They're going to bring it for 60 minutes. And I see Utah putting up a 28-point win on this one.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Stanford's bad and Utah's good, and Utah's gonna roll. I don't know, 24 might be a lot. David Shaw has like this weird way of hanging in games or even winning that, like the example of Notre Dame when he shouldn't. But the fact that this is right in rice cycles and whatnot, I don't see Utah putting leaving this to be questionable for very long, if at all, and Utah rolls.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was a chance we were going to split on a couple of the picks, but most of these are, I think, it'll be all unanimous. Utah, although you were saying about the spread, Utah is like 5-4 this year against the spread, but they're 2-0 against the spread when it's 24 points or more, which is pretty good. And I think that the problem with Stanford is unfortunately they have a very bad offense that goes along with really bad defense. A lot of the programs in the Pac-12 have a bad defense, but a lights out offense. Unfortunately, Stanford has the lucky distinction of being bad in both sides of the ball. So I think that Utah wins and covers.
Tim is bringing out the numbers tonight. I love it.
I do. Tim, I like it.
You know what? No, that's an inside joke because I said, Chris, I love your numbers. He's always crunching numbers, and he showed me a couple of sites that are just amazing. And no, I'm not going to throw away my small teacher salary on betting on football. That's for sure. But it's really fun to know the numbers, and I appreciate Chris's help.
Well, here's what I think of this game, guys. Karma's a bitch. In Stanford, you got some karma coming for your banning of the tree. So you know what? Drop it on him, Utes. Utes in the chat. Have Kincaid throw him another few touchdowns. Put up 70 if you can. Because you know what, Stanford? Screw you. Beep. You know, well, we can't actually do that. We have a beep. But yeah, Stanford, go to hell. You deserve it. And get your tree back. When you get your tree back, you can get your games back. Yeah, I think Utah rolls. All right, moving on. Guys, an interesting discussion here. So we've had a lot of discussion going on right now about the Utah-Oregon on November 19th and the USC-UCLA game. One of them is going to be in nationwide in prime time, and one of them is going to be nationwide Pac-12 after dark. And we thought we would explain to you guys just exactly why that's happening, because it's a really, really big controversy in the conference right now. So those two games, we do not know, and we will not know until possibly as soon as the Monday before. They're on a 6-day hold with Fox and ABC and ESPN. ABC owns ESPN. And the reason for that is we want to show you guys here. This is why. So it's not a conspiracy. It's nothing bad. It's not a controversy. But the reason is that Fox gets the first pick. And Fox has decided that they have the slot they're holding for the Pac-12, which is on their contract, what they're allowed to do. They're going to hold that 7:30 Eastern game. It might be 8. I think it's 7:30, but that primetime game. Now, the catch to that, the rule is that ABC and ESPN, if they want to air that game, they can't conflict with Fox. So they can't have that game in prime time. So they could do it earlier. Well, the problem is they can't do it at noon, which is 9 a.m. on the West Coast, because that's too early. Nobody wants to watch football games at 9 a.m. So they could do it later in the afternoon, but those times are actually already contracted under their deal with the Big Ten and the ACC. So ABC asked the Big Ten, well, they asked Fox, could we run the other game opposite yours? And Fox said no. So that was denied. So then they went to the Big Ten and they said, hey, I think it's a Michigan game. They said, can we have that game be the night game so that we can have the Pac-12 game earlier? And the Big Ten said no. And the reason for that is the Big Ten, because it gets colder in November, the schools have to okay the night games. And the school said, no, we don't want to play at night in November. So ABC and ESPN were screwed. They did not have another option. You guys can see here on the screen. They got 4 slots. 3 of them they couldn't use, so it has to be Pac-12 After Dark. It's not Larry Scott's fault. It's not the deals. It's just the way the contracts all are, that was the one that it had. So we don't know who's going to – Fox will take what they're going to think is the more national appeal game. Right now it's suspected that will probably be USC, UCLA, assuming everybody wins out this weekend. And then probably Utah, Oregon will be Pac-12 After Dark on ESPN. So again, we don't know that for sure, but it's probably one. It's going to be one or the other, and that's why. So guys, just so you know, it's not anybody screwing anybody over. It's just the way it goes. So, anything you guys have to say on that, or does that make sense?
I think you described it perfectly.
And no, it's happening, and that's logical. But it doesn't make sense that those games, there's a chance that one of those games we played on After Dark. It's absurd that somehow either USC, UCLA, or Utah and Oregon. I know that's the way the system's set up, but it's just an absolute crime.
It's indirectly Larry Scott's issue, and I'll tell you why. Because it's about TV eyeballs. That's what it's about. Because back in the day, it was Ohio State, Michigan, and then USC, UCLA. USC, UCLA was a game. But a lot has changed since Larry Scott was running the Pac-12. You don't get a lot of eyeballs watching the Pac-12 because of Larry Scott's
deal-making.
Let's say his business plan, if you want to call it that. He believed in parity, which led to mediocrity. And he thought that would be a great model for the Pac-12. And it wasn't. I mean, he created equal revenue sharing, and the teams got what they wanted because they didn't really like USC and UCLA getting unequal revenue sharing. But over a decade, what has happened is it's given an excuse to the TV broadcast partners not to feature the Pac-12 schools in these prime spots. It's ridiculous. But over time, that's what has happened. And you have the media and social media that don't really give a lot of respect to the Pac-12. I mean, take a look at the college football playoff rankings. If you go by their metrics, there's a lot of issues that happen that we'll be talking about later. But it's just an accumulation over time of a lack of respect for the Pac-12. So this is not surprising.
I think you're right. Real quick, we want to thank Zach T. Zach, thank you for your super chat. We really appreciate it. It really helps the community. Thank you. Thank you for that. And go Utes. And Utes have got a good game this week, and they're going to stick it to Stanford. So Utes, deliver. Zach, get your Utes to deliver the karma on Stanford. Free the tree.
But Tony, you nailed it on that graphic. So that you explained it perfectly.
Oh,
Nice
thank
job.
you.
Nice job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And guys, by the way, if you haven't met the Stanford tree, dude is awesome. He's been on our show. We love him. He's going to come on again sometime. Really, really good guy. Check it out. That's also on Mark's channel. And you can take a look there. All right, guys. What might be the biggest game of the week? And we got some special guests in our picture this week. So if you know who they are, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. They're there for their dogs and their ducks. We've got Hate Week. Autzen Stadium is going to have Oregon and Washington. What do we think is going to happen?
This is going to be a great game. And Eric kind of looks like a duck. Look at his smile. Look at the duck's eyeballs, the duck's beak. Eric is a duck, and he is a duck. This is going to be a great game because Oregon's going to make a huge statement. They hate Washington. They've owned Washington. Washington's a better team with DeBoer, with Penix, and their offense, but their defense is suspect. And Oregon got some respect in the playoff rankings. I'm very surprised that LSU didn't jump them. But Oregon has a clear path to become Pac-12 champions and earn a spot in the college football playoff rankings. So what better way than to take it to Washington at home? Now, the one area that Oregon, there's a little concern is the pass defense. And that's going to be the chance that Washington has in this game to stay close, keep it competitive. Is Penix Jr. is going to have a perfect game, and he's going to have to find those spots in the defense because their DBs are slow. They're slow and they're smaller. So, but Washington's going to have to play a perfect game. At the end of the day, I just don't see that happening. I see the Ducks rolling. I see the Ducks winning by 2 touchdowns by 14 points.
So, Washington had a good win against the Oregon State Beavers last week at home, but playing the Ducks in Autzen is a completely different animal. Like Rick kind of already mentioned, I do think that the Huskies might have a chance of moving the ball with Penix throwing the ball against Oregon. But I don't see Washington stopping Oregon at all. And it's in Austin. And I think the Ducks roll before they go on to play the Utes, and then they finish up against Oregon State in Corvallis, which I think is sneakily, even though the 2 teams that they're playing are ranked, might actually be their hardest game of the 3. But yeah, for now I got the Ducks winning and probably by 14 or 17 or 21 or whatever they want. I just think they're a much better team.
Yeah, there's no doubt that. See, I told you this would be. Well, this is the other one I thought we might all split a little bit on, but this is all gonna be exactly the same. Oregon is the better team. Their offense is statistically right up there with USC, almost across the board, sharing and very close to on most categories. There's no way that Washington's gonna be able to stop them. But on the other side of the coin, I don't see Oregon, who I don't think has. I think Oregon State's defense is better than Oregon's defense. I really do. Oregon's linebackers are disgusting. Those guys are great when healthy. But as far as just team defense, I think Oregon State's a better defense, especially red zone defense. So I know that Oregon is going to win this game. I think that they win comfortably. But I do think that the Huskies are going to backdoor cover this one. I really do see Oregon winning, but I think that Washington will cover.
So no one thinks rivalry factor plays into it at all. I think it's such an interesting thing that maybe people from outside of the conference don't realize. Both of these teams having like an in-state rival that they play, quote unquote, like the last week of the year, but this actually being their true rivalry game. Tony, you're on mute.
I was going to say, Chris, you're right. It's just like Michigan and Ohio State. Like, this is the state of Washington and the state of Oregon, and they do not like each other. What do you think, Chris? Do you think they have a chance even?
No, not really. Unless there's like rivalry voodoo magic. And like, I think that would take like being in Seattle, some crazy things happening, that weird weather thing that we were talking about last week that never came, being there, a couple like seances in the parking lot, like all kinds of weird stuff going on. I don't think that Washington, and it's not to say that Washington isn't good or that they're fraudulent or that they shouldn't be ranked. Like, it's a good Washington team, but and I've thought this about Oregon for a while, even before they played us, is like, I think this Oregon team is really, really good. And, people like to point out that week one, the week one loss. And for some reason, people still harp on, and I know it was by however many points it was, but like the conversation around harping on Oregon's week one loss to who is unanimously the best team in the country, I think by a wide margin to most people, compared to when people talk about LSU, for example, losing to Florida State in week one, and they kind of just shrug it off because it wasn't like a blowout, even though it was a much worse team. I think this Oregon team is really, really good. Yeah. And I think they're going to just continue to show it come Saturday.
Well, the thing is I don't see the one reason why I think that they have, I think that Oregon just cruises comfortably, right? But I think the reason for the backdoor cover is that, Washington put up 400 yards on a good Oregon State team and put up points. I just don't see Oregon, unless you're thinking Oregon's, of course, 60 or 50, 60 or 55 points. I think that they're gonna cover. I think that Washington's gonna put up points, especially on that Oregon secondary. That's my only point. I don't think that it's ever in doubt. I don't think the game's ever in doubt for the Ducks, but I don't see a blowout.
I need to clarify for our friend DeReal. He says he doesn't see Oregon as a college football playoff qualifier. He doesn't see that path. And I get that, DeReal, but they're at number 6 right now. And they're playing number 25, Washington. They're going to play number 13, Utah. They're going to play an Oregon State team that will probably be ranked at the time they play them. Oregon State will probably be 8-3. And then they're going to get SC or UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game. I just saw a stat published by Fox Sports that Oregon has the hardest, most difficult remaining schedule in college football. And I agree with that. TCU is going to lose a game. And then Tennessee is probably not going to make it to the SEC championship game. So the committee is going to have to make a decision. The path that I just laid out, those 4 games that Oregon's going to play, if they win out, they will be in the college football playoff, plain and simple. And that's coming from a USC guy. So if an SEC guy can't see that, take the glasses off, take a lesson from LBC, they will make it.
Rick, you think that you would think that the path for Oregon to win out is tougher than, let's say, a USC to win out, playing UCLA and Notre Dame, and then possibly Oregon?
Yes, it is, because this Friday we play Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado is the dregs of the Pac-12 and of the country, Power 5 teams. Again, Oregon's going to play Washington, Utah, Oregon State and Corvallis, and then a Pac-12 championship game if they win out.
So Tim, the only reason I'm going to disagree with that is I'm going to disagree and say that the path for Oregon or UCLA, the path for SC or UCLA is quote unquote harder. But the only reason for that is because Oregon can't play itself, right? Like it's harder for UCLA and SC because they have to play Oregon, and beating Oregon is, in my opinion, harder to do than beating USC or UCLA.
Well, let's look at the toughest team. So I guess for Oregon, the toughest team is going to be Utah. Do we agree? Before the championship game, right? I think
we're gonna get to USC in just a sec too.
Well, let's just hit this really quick. We might as well. So then, if you're looking at, then you have
the highest ranked team, obviously. I think
I'm not with the rankings. The rankings are
right. I think Oregon State matches up with them maybe better, and it's on the road, which makes it a little bit more difficult because the Ducks and Autzen don't lose. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just looking at what you're saying as well. They would have to play either UCLA most likely, or if they win out, that means they assume they beat Utah. but they're going to have to play either USC or UCLA in the championship game as well. So I mean, it kind of that part rolls. I'm just looking at USC. I think UCLA is, of all the team, is up there with Utah. I don't think that any of the games coming up are going to compare. I don't know. I just don't think it's that much of a difference between what USC would have to do compared to what Oregon has to do to win out.
And we'll get to this when we do our power rankings too. Guys, looking at this one, I think I really want to go with the Dogs. I want to say bow down to Washington, but I think the Ducks there's too much, and it's at Autzen, and I think Ducks are going to roll. Oregon wins big. Sorry, guys. Now, however, before the game, LBC, I understand we've got a special craft beer pick because the Dogs found a big win last week. What should they be drinking up in Seattle?
Yeah, it's all Pacific Northwest. They had the two best wins last week. Again, with Washington State going down and taking care of Stanford. And then on a Friday, wet, cold, windy night on Montlake, Washington beat a 6-2 Oregon State. Cold. This is a great beer. This is Fremont Brewing's Rusty Nail Oatmeal Stout. This is the number one oatmeal stout on Beer Advocate. And it's rated a perfect 100. So this beer is brewed with epic proportions of brewer's licorice, smoked barley, and pale malt, and aged in cinnamon. And it becomes a rusty nail because they, after brewing it, they age it in 12-year-old bourbon barrels for 15 months. And that gives it the flavor. Now, this bottle retails for $25, but that's a huge win. So if you're an alumnus, go ahead and buy this beer, get a cigar. If you're a college student, go find 5 of your friends, pitch in $5 each, and get a 3.5-ounce shot and enjoy it, because that's a great win on a cold night. Cheers, Huskies.
Bow down to Washington. Go Dogs. Congrats on the big win, guys. All right, another game. The Beavs are going to Berkeley. What do we think, guys? We got, Benny who chops down trees and Cal who actually climbs in them and lives in them for about a decade. What do we think is going to happen in this game?
Well, Oregon State, they're on a clear path to get to a good bowl game. They're bowl eligible. They just had a tough game, like we talked about up at Washington. They're 6-3. And, Cal played SC really tough. But we made Jack Plummer look like Jake Plummer, or Aaron Rodgers. That's not going to happen with this Oregon State defense. They're stingy. They're physical. They're going to pick off Plummer. They're going to make him turn the ball over. And Oregon State's going to have too much for California up there. And I see Oregon State winning by 10 points.
So I got a shout out an earlier comment that said either Oski likes fun or Oski loves fun, joking about the Stanford hates fun thing. And you haven't, and I love that comment because you haven't really lived until you've seen Oski drinking a beer through a funnel through his eye hole. You can actually see it in that picture right there. But
he does. He has a hole for that.
Like one quick comment.
The third hole.
One quick comment on Cal is, they have 6 losses, but 4 of them are within a touchdown. And I get that people laugh about Colorado, and that's a terrible loss. But the other 3 are USC, Washington, and Notre Dame, who are all ranked. They've played all 3 of those schools within a touchdown. So I get that we laugh at the Bears and that their O-line is bad, but they have a way of hanging around sometimes. That being said, if this was in Berkeley, then, maybe I start getting carried away.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, it's at Reeser.
But no, you have it right. The stadium in the background isn't, you have the writing correct.
Sorry, Beavs. I'm sorry. Connor, we're sorry.
But yeah, in Corvallis, the Beavs win this. And, I said all year that they were going to win 10 games. And now they just have to do it in their bowl game. We're going to add an extra game on to squeeze in the 10. I'm going to cheat a little bit.
I like it. Tim, what do you think?
So I don't really I think Cal the whole thing about Plummer is for 3 quarters USC bottled them up completely. Then some witchcraft voodoo went on in the 4th quarter, and USC gives up 20 unexplicable points on blown coverages when they moved to that stupid zone. And the previous 3 quarters they didn't do much of anything. They scored 14 points. I don't see. I believe that Oregon State is one of the best defenses in this conference, and at home they're incredibly nasty. I think that Oregon State's going to win this one easily.
Tim, I think you're right. Oregon State, I think, is a good team. They're a lot better team than people give them credit for. We've seen them play everybody tough. But Chris, you're also right in that Berkeley's found a way to hang on. Berkeley should have beaten Notre Dame. Cal and Stanford both should have beaten Notre Dame. And this is, I think, going to be closer than we think. But at Reeser, I don't think Berkeley comes up with the win. I think the Beavs continue to roll, having a great season. By the way, shout out to Sergeant Pickles. Thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate how much it helps the channel. Sergeant Pickles, you get a dubs up. Go Dogs on behalf of your folks, because as you say, it's the most hateful time of the year. It's Hate Week in Seattle and Eugene. All right, guys. Looking ahead now, we got an interesting one. We've got the Bruins and the Arizona Wildcats heading to the Rose Bowl. What do we think is going to go down in Pasadena?
Well, before that, I think it's Sergeant Pickles' birthday on Friday. So cheers, Sergeant Pickles.
Yeah, the Marine Corps. That's his Marine Corps birthday.
When you're a Marine, you only need one birthday.
Marine, yeah.
It's the Marine Corps birthday.
So, gentlemen, I think the first 5 games that we've picked, it's all pretty much been chalk. And the Pac-12 does crazy things. And we're all high on UCLA. UCLA is feeling disrespected. The last time that I got all high on UCLA, you left me high and dry. You went and laid an egg at Autzen. And, I can easily take the Bruins here. I can give you the reason why UCLA is going to win. But DTR has got to come back to earth. Jane DeLora is a baller. We saw what they did against USC. And I don't have any facts. I'm not going to quote you any stats. And Chris is going to come in here. He's going to give you the stats of why and how. And I'm just going to tell you right now, crazy things happen. And just when you want UCLA or you think that they're the team that you believe them to be, they're not. Like a ghost, they're going to disappear for some reason, for some period of time. And Arizona's going to win this game by 3. I'm taking Arizona.
Damn,
like
Rick. Rick goes
LBC
rogue
with
again.
the bold
Yeah.
pick.
You guys
Yeah,
laughed
Tim-
at me when I took Notre Dame against Clemson. You laughed at me at
I
Notre
didn't
Dame.
laugh at that.
You know what?
That wasn't that big. That
I
wasn't
didn't
that
laugh at
outrageous.
that.
That,
Yeah,
that was
I
a
didn't
good
laugh. It's
pick.
like
I laughed, Rick, I laughed when you picked Colorado a couple weeks back. That's what I laughed.
Okay. All right.
But Tim, to the laughing point, you know how you said like, oh, I should trail Rick's picks, except like when he goes rogue or goes crazy, like I should not do that. This is that time. There's Delora going as crazy as he did might have something to do with SC's defense as much as it has to do with Arizona.
Oh, well, here
But
we
I
go.
will say no. They have some playmakers, and I said that the week that you guys played them, they have their wide receiver core is insane. Like the number 5 dude could play for anyone he wanted to. But getting back to UCLA and Arizona, so UCLA had 400 yards rushing last week against Arizona State without Charbonnet. Who was out for an injury that kind of took everyone else by surprise. He's practicing now, apparently. And 400 yards against Arizona State is pretty good and makes me feel like we can do absolutely whatever we want rushing the ball against Arizona. So I have no idea how they would possibly stop us. it's kind of interesting. Like the other weird thing with the Charbonnet being out, and I think we got down to like our 5th string running back, and it wasn't because we were like running up the score. It was like people kept getting hurt. So like Colson Yankoff was like taking, rushes at the end of the game to like run out the clock when we were up by a couple touchdowns or whatever. The other weird thing is our defensive coordinator, Bill McGovern, hasn't been at games calling plays the last 2 weeks. He's like supposedly involved in game prep, but he's not, like, and I'm not sure what the sickness is. They haven't really said it. So we have had an analyst calling plays. I don't know if you guys know this. If you do, let me know. Or if you want to, it's an old friend of yours, guy by the name of Clancy Pendergast.
We've heard of him.
That's who's been calling plays for UCLA the last 2 weeks.
Triggered.
There you go. See?
Triggered.
Oh.
LBC, I'm questioning my picks now. LBC, did you know this was happening when you made that pick?
Hey, man. I don't have to disclose my sources.
Oh, man.
But Bill, I think Bill McGovern might be back this week, but I don't know why it's been a weird thing where he hasn't been around. Yeah, but anyway, no, I think we roll. I don't know how much you weigh. Like, I don't know necessarily if Chip is like we're gonna be pissed off at the committee and we're gonna run it up kind of person versus, wanting to make sure that, especially with like the banged up running back situation, like wanting to stay healthy for SE the next week and just balancing those two things. But yeah, no, I think we roll. They'll score, but we win, and we win comfortably by the time 60 minutes is over.
What's comfortably? 3 points?
Come
on, Fred. Come on, you're a stat man. Throw the number out there. Come on.
2 or 3 touchdowns.
Oh, okay. Pick one, 2 or 3.
3.
All right, there we go.
I knew, I knew, Rick, when you said pick one of those, I knew he was going to say 3. Here's the thing. What does UCLA do really exceptional? They've got an incredible running back, and DTR it can take off at any moment. And to make things worse, you've got an Arizona Wildcat team that's like it's like 120 something against the rush in the country. They get up 218 yards a game. Going up against this UCLA rushing attack that's just going to they must be licking their chops. I'm really thinking that overall they're giving almost 500 yards a game. This is just not a good Arizona defense. Now that's the standard for a number of programs, like I said, in the conference. And Arizona played lights out. They played great against USC, but they had to make circus catches. I mean, anyone watch that game, their receivers are awesome, but odds of them making all those catches again against a UCLA defense, which is a strong defense as well by Pac-12 standards, is not likely. I just see Arizona just handing the ball off and just running it down their throats. I mean, they're 99th in the country, giving up 254 yards passing Arizona. So they don't do anything good on defense at all. So
no, we saw that last week.
And I'm with Chris. They win by multiple touchdowns. I'll split the difference and I'll say they win by 17, not 14 or 21.
Tim, I think that's a pretty good pick. Yeah, I kept thinking this game is ripe for an upset, and it may be because UCLA plays to the level of their competition so often. I mean, whether it's South Alabama, whether it's Bowling Green, who they were losing to for a while. They play the level of their competition, but they find a way to win. So I think Arizona, whatever it is in this game, I would bet the over because I think Arizona puts up like 40 and UCLA puts up about 1,000.
And if I can add one more thing, I think all these top 4 teams are pretty close to each other. I mean, really, it's very small. It's almost like what flavor do you want on which one you're going to pick between the top 4. The thing is, Arizona played USC close, but let's not use that as a metric because USC is incredibly banged up on defense. Yeah. So UCLA is not. So, and with that's another big reason why I just don't think it's going to be close.
I think you're right. All right. Moving on real quick, guys, just a heads up for everybody. Next week on the 17th is going to be the UC Regents meeting, where we are told, although who knows, that there will be some resolution on the debate about whether or not the Regents want to reassert their delegated authority for UCLA to decide the conference of their choice. So I don't, we hear, guys, we don't think there's going to be any change, but that has some implications, and that moves into something that you may have heard today in the last few days. John Wilner, John Canzano, the two guys most plugged into the conference, have basically been confirming that the leading candidates for Pac-12 expansion pretty much locked down if the conference does expand. And we don't know. John Wilner said he thought 40% chance they stay at 10, 20% chance they go to 11, and 40% chance they go to 12. It looks like the two that would be added would be San Diego State and SMU. Guys, don't want to dwell on it because it's speculation and it could go forever. Just real quick, any reaction to this?
Yeah, it's all speculation. There's a lot of news leaks that are happening, and just follow the leaks. Bill Walton, after 4 months of smoking pot, finally said something, and that was choreographed. And now you have Dan Patrick's source earlier this week saying San Diego State will probably be announced joining the conference as early as this week. So, there's posturing going on by the Pac-12. I don't think they want UCLA. Obviously, they don't want UCLA to leave, and but they're floating out a possible travel partner to for UCLA should they stay. That hey, we got San Diego State. I don't know what to think, but if these are the two teams that are going to replace SC and UCLA, well, good luck. Good luck to the Pac-12.
Tony, I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Did you say that Wilner and Canzano were saying that this wasn't true, or that they're actually saying
they have said that it's not going to be announced this week. They think that it'll be announced after the media deal and after the UCLA Regents meeting will happen. Then there will be terms agreed to with the media deal, which would include the expansions, and then the announcement of the expansion. That's
and they're talking about both of them, because that's a sharp turnaround, I think, from what they were saying, even like a week or two ago. Or what Auerbach was saying, and okay, that's interesting.
Well, but again, Wilner's saying 40% chance they stay at 10.
Gotcha.
He says 20% chance they add San Diego would be the first one they'd add, but he thinks a 40% chance they go to 12 and add both of them. What I think is
sorry, go ahead.
What I was gonna say, what's material about this, guys, is they are not from, again, this is not our inside information. Now, we talked about this a long time ago on Mark Rogers' channel and said these two would be the two. The big significance here is there is no more talk of Boise, no talk of UNLV, no talk of Colorado State, no talk of Air Force, who, by the way, the Pentagon has vetoed that many times before. So it does look here that these would be the two choices. It gets you into the Southern California market, which we've talked about being very important, and it gets you into Texas and the Dallas market with a great destination, also very easy airports. We've talked about this a lot with expansion options, but it does look like if there is expansion, John Wilner and John Canzano are saying these would be the two.
And
I think they make sense.
Tony, that's what I was going to bring up. He asked why not Boise, why not for the state? It's because of the Dallas market. It's because of the San Diego market. And
also academics. I mean,
and SMU is a better school. Yeah.
SMU is a higher ranked school than all 12 members of the Big 12 going forward. SMU is it's a lot like USC. USC is a former Methodist school, very, very similar student body, very similar character. SMU's on an aspirational tear. They are boosting their academics and research and everything like that. They're on a tear. So is San Diego State. San Diego State has, I'm trying to think if they are, I think San Diego State would also because San Diego State's a little different because of their ranking, because they don't do as much graduate stuff because of the California master plan. But San Diego State has more elite admissions than any school in the Big 12 also. So these are both academically superior to all 12 of the Big 12. And so in that regard, these are great additions. They're very Pac-12. They both need a P5 home. And the Pac-12 needs to have a presence in Southern California. They need to have more presence in big cities, and these are really good picks, I think. But again, we don't. John Wilner again says 40% chance they stay at 10. So we don't know if it's for sure. I think I work in consulting, guys. The consultants for San Diego State have gone on the record talking about their project. And one thing consultants don't do is talk on the record in public to media about their ongoing projects if it's not, and they certainly don't do it if it's not okay. So for the fact that that's happening, I think it's all but done, but we'll see. All right. Anything else real quick, or should we move on to the big game?
Let's do it.
Well, the big game, at least maybe for some of us, it's the big game, Friday Night Lights. We've got Under the Lights in the Coliseum. The not-so-mighty Colorado Buffaloes are coming to play USC. Guys, does this have any chance for a Pac-12 weeknight trap game, or are the Trojans going to roll?
I'm embarrassed to talk about this game, actually. I mean, come on. It's just, yeah, USC's been banged up with the defense. And that's been problematic. I think you'll see, the great thing is that that's all being overlooked about all the talk about the defense is Caleb Williams is freaking elite. This guy has 28 touchdowns and 1 interception. He's also rushed for 4 more touchdowns. He's thrown for over 2,700 yards. Dude is the best quarterback I've ever seen at USC. And yes, I know about Carson Palmer winning the Heisman. But the one thing that I'm going to be looking for at this game, I'll be at the game, I think Tim is going to be there as well, is this is kind of going back to 2002. I think Caleb Williams, it'll be a successful game if he doesn't play the fourth quarter. I want to see Miller Moss. Fourth quarter is Miller's. I expect USC just to dominate these guys. If they don't, then that's a lot of problems. That's going to be a lot of problems. But Caleb Williams has the opportunity next week to play against UCLA, a ranked team, big game, against Notre Dame, kind of the same path that Carson Palmer had. And then Carson Palmer just spanked Iowa and put Brad Banks to shame in the 2003 Orange Bowl. Back then, they didn't play it was the Pac-10. They didn't play a championship game. But, should USC beat Colorado and beat UCLA, well, then they would, they would face likely Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. But if you can go ahead and collect numbers in this game, beat UCLA, beat Notre Dame, and beat Oregon, he would be a leading candidate to be in New York for the Heisman. He's got it out there in front of him. The thing I like about this guy is he's a baller and he's a great leader, and I think he steps up to the challenge. So he's going to put a clinic on Friday night.
I want to use part of my time real quick to argue with Tony that USC plays to the level of their competition, arguably a little bit more than UCLA does. But moving on from that fact, I also appreciate DeReal trying to bait me into picking Colorado. I have picked against SC on this show, but it's not going to be this week. Colorado is obviously like one of the worst teams in FBS, and SC names that score. You guys know better than I do, so you can tell me is like what's the deal with Gentry and Addison and the guys that haven't been playing?
We don't know yet.
We don't know, and we don't know if they're going to play and get a little sweat on before they come out after.
In fact, there's a whole lot of angst among the USC reporters. So, guys, there's a whole bunch of websites and everybody else that covers USC. They send people to practice, and Lincoln Riley treats them with less welcomeness than the NSA. So,
and not only that, they're under direct. They're not even supposed to tell people if people are practicing, people are not practicing. It's very tight-lipped if they're given that access as far as what the injury issues are. But I can tell you that on 2 of the 3 for sure, they're ankle injuries. And we know with ankle injuries, there's high and low ankle sprains. There's different levels of severity. You could be out a week. You could be out 6, 7, 8 weeks. You know what I mean? Depending on how bad it is. I know that recent medical therapies speed it up a little bit. I'm really hoping it's not one of the latter that I talked about, that these guys can get healthy for UCLA. But the answer is nobody knows.
Because, yeah, I would think that you would want them ideally, to play like a quarter or a half or something, just to play a game, because they haven't played in like a month or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
Before next week. Not that they're going to play all game or that you need them to win this game. You certainly don't. So with that being said, for all the talk that USC fans do about how the conference is out to get them and the Pac-12 tries to keep SC down, I want you to enjoy the quasi bye week that you have and the extra day off before your game with UCLA next week.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, we're just pulling out the SEC playbook, man. Colorado's going to be our Austin P or our UAB.
Well,
Rick, don't curse us. Don't curse us.
Oh, come on now. Come on. There's no way. No way in hell. We got this game.
At least it's not in Corvallis. That's all I'm saying. Tim, what do you think real quick?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Cal game has been overblown. Anybody that watched the first 3 quarters of that game, SC was in cruise control. At the half, they went up 20. To start the fourth quarter, they were up 20. A couple, an onside kick and some busted coverages. I mean, you got to play a game for 4 quarters. And credit Cal for taking advantage of the opportunities that they had. But that really was not a game for 3 quarters. I do believe that unless USC gets Gentry back and other pieces and guys like Shane Lee 100% healthy, I'm going to be really worried going into Westwood in 2 weeks. This game, not so much. I was bagging on Stanford being the outlier to Pac-12. We all have bad defenses, probably outside of Utah and Washington State, Oregon State. But what makes Stanford and Colorado so special in our league is they're crap on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, they rank towards the bottom on both of those things. USC is going to get healthy, hopefully, like we thought we would during the Cal game. I'm hoping that we get a lot of guys out and rested up going forward. This game should be a snoozer and over at halftime. I said that about Cal, but again, Cal showed us that they used to have a fight in them, and I just don't see this with Colorado. We have their best defensive player and their best offensive player playing for us this year. We stole their best receiver in Rice, and then we stole Blackman, their best secondary guy. So USC is going to roll this one.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, so we have a hurricane right now descending on me. We're right by Vero Beach. Just up the way here is where the Spanish treasure fleet was wrecked. And then all the pirates came over the next year and like plundered it all. That's what happened to Colorado's team. Last year, everybody in the Pac-12 has got they all got some players from Colorado. Just like all the pirates went and got a little bit of treasure from those ships. And that's what happened to Colorado. Now, with that said, I don't disrespect Ralphie, but I think USC rolls. Chris and I have 2 fraternity brothers that are backup quarterbacks that need to get some playing time. So I not only hope we get to see Miller, I hope we get to see Miller and Gage both, because in Hoke Boys, and also we need to know that we're ready in case Caleb were to be injured or go down.
Tony, can I jump in? I hope we don't see a third guy, because that means someone got hurt. So
I hope we see him, because I hope Caleb scores 1 million points and then Miller scores a bunch of points, and then we get to see Gage for fun as well.
Okay.
The more the merrier. So with that, I think USC rolls. All right, guys, let's move on real quick. Just guys, a little quick comment here. If you guys are not following at USC Comics, I think they lay it down here. For those of you guys listening, it's Coach Alex Grinch, and the USC fans tell him, "Hey, Grinch, make us a delicious omelet." And he says, "Sure." And they say, "Here's your ingredients." Give him some Cheese Whiz and a banana. And he says, "Welcome to my world." So, guys, our defense is really injured, really banged up. And you see that without Gentry. You see that without Goforth. I think the defense with Gentry and Goforth, where's Eddie with his giraffes to show us? It's a way better defense. Real quick, guys, if you haven't seen our interview with the Trojan, Jacobo, amazing guy. He is the USC Trojan drum major. Just you will watch that and fall in love with him in the USC band. So, guys, we are running behind. So let me just try to go through this real quick. How are we doing on picks? Well, let's see. LBC has been brave. He's been winning some points by that bravery and starting to catch up, but he's still in fourth. Next up, I'm one game up at 28-12. And then we got a tie for first place. Tim has pulled it up and tied with Chris. So we got two of our folks on top.
Tim, are we all the same?
7-0.
That was LBC 7-0, undefeated, pulling the comeback.
LBC with the backdoor cover.
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding. Tim, I have a question for you. If it does come down, we have all the same picks this week, right?
Yes,
I think so. Because on the
so
two
much.
that might have been toss-ups, we picked the same, and the other ones were just layups.
So much like the schools we root for, a lot of it will come down to the game next
Final
week.
weeks.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, we might. I mean, all four people. I mean, we go a couple more weeks. It's going to be pretty close. We might have to do like maybe a score pick at the end because it's going to be, or maybe the last week. Maybe we just do we do like we do our show like we do it, but we make a little ahead of the game. We kind of send Tony our picks, and then we just go there, and then do like a score, right? And maybe the score of the SC Notre Dame game as a tiebreaker.
It'll be fun.
Or we could
It's
pick
gonna be
bowl
close no
games.
matter what.
Bowl games.
Yeah, we could do that, of course, because we got to keep going.
Exactly.
All right, should we take a look at our power rankings?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, and
I
so
can't
Tim or somebody, can you put the call-in link in the chat for everybody? Everybody wants to call in.
Yeah,
We got
sure.
a couple folks waiting right now, and then we want to have you guys chat. That's the purpose of why we're here for a while. But real quick, let's look at our power rankings. So once again, I think everybody has been unanimous. The worst team in the league is definitely Colorado, unless they pull a shocking upset. It's always, as who says, it's always been Colorado. Next up to bat, we've got Cal and Stanford. Everybody's got them at the bottom. Chris, who comes from that gold and blue Berkeley blood, is showing more respect for the Bears. Chris, I think we respect that. Next, you guys have been pretty unanimous. The third from the bottom little group are the Arizonas. Except Tim has more love for ASU. Tim, you believe in ASU more.
Yeah, I do. I just think they
Not
have,
enough to give them the win.
No.
Not enough to give them the win. Next up to bat. Now, the guys, this gets interesting. Now, I just want to point out, I have had the Dogs at number 5 for this whole time. I was a believer in the Dogs. Bow down to Washington. Bum, bum, bum. That's for you, Sergeant Pickles. Two of you have joined me. Tim, you continue to think the Dogs are trash. What's up with that?
Not trash. Not trash. I just think the teams above them, you could interchange. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I probably might swap out ASU with Washington. But I think that the Apple Cup's going to Washington State, and I watched that game on Friday. I watched every play of it, and I was certain that the OSU was going to win that game. On a neutral field, I'm certain they win that game for sure. OSU has the better defense. The only problem they have is a huge problem is, man, they got to sort out their quarterback situation. But the running game's solid. I still like their offensive line, and defensively, again, I think the Beavs have probably among, if not the best defense in the league.
All right. And how much are they missing JD Daniels? They wish they would have landed him.
They had him, man. Wow.
All right, let's look at number 1. Number 1, we continue to have 3 organs across the board, but the Ducks have fallen for Tim. And
who did Tim put number 1?
Who did Tim put number 1?
Hey.
Oh, what do you guys think about it in the chat with that? Tim demotes the Ducks, promotes the Trojans, and of course, the Utah Utes are right in there next. And with that, guys, why don't we bring in 2 callers real quick who might have something to say about that. We've got 2 Utah Utes who've been waiting. Let's welcome Zach and Larry. Guys, welcome to the show.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How you doing, Zach?
Good. How are you?
Good. Zach, what do you think about the Utes coming up this week?
I don't foresee Stanford being any issue, honestly. I feel like the Utes are starting to get healthy. From what I understand, Bernard's going to be back this week. I think that'll help the offense tremendously. And from like what you guys have said, Stanford's both awful on defense and offense. There's really no helping that, and they definitely need to free the tree.
Exactly. And are you guys gonna fix that karma?
Absolutely.
Avenge the tree.
Utes big this week.
Tony, I want to jump on in front of something on the Utes real quick and then let them talk about it. Is we talk a lot about Oregon and the potential matchup with one of UCLA or USC in the conference title game, but the Utes are sitting there quietly, and I think they still control their own destiny.
They do,
and I don't think we, as the LA centric hosts, have necessarily given enough credit to that fact. So I want to let Larry and Zach, talk up their Utes and if they see the path of getting into the conference championship.
Beat the Ducks and you're in.
We work better as an underdog anyway, if you ever noticed that with Utah. So
Definitely
we like
agree
being
with
counted
Larry.
out.
I feel like everybody's talking Oregon. If I remember correctly, in 2019, it was kind of the exact opposite. Everybody was talking about how Utah could make the college playoff, and I think it's time to revenge that 2019 loss.
Yep.
What about? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the question I have is, what is the health of Utah's tight ends? I just don't see the offensive weapons to compete with Oregon at Autzen. Now, if the game was at Rice-Eccles, but I believe, obviously, their number one tight end, Kuthy's out. I believe Dalton Kincaid is out as well. Larry? Or
Kincaid's, they're probably going to sit him out one more game. He will probably play against Oregon.
Okay.
And so going into Oregon, we're probably going to be missing. Well, obviously Keithy's out for the season. What's been saving our skin, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, the defense is actually starting to play as a team now. They're getting a little better every week. So that's kind of where we've been making hay. So, I mean, I went off on MarkRogersTV. Sorry, guys, I wasn't trying to bash USC. I just had enough talk about USC in that week. And anyway, apologize, wasn't trying to bash USC. I'd had enough of Darrell MVP and hearing about Utah didn't win that game against USC. So you could understand that as a fan where I was coming from. And
Sure.
Also being on hold almost 2 hours is going to drive anybody, along with Darrell's talk, to the point of losing it. So apologies, but
We love the real MVP. We're here for them in a little bit.
You never have to apologize.
You never have to
I love you
apologize.
guys. And did you like my analogy of it's like going to a barbecue at a family event where they're getting divorced and the one's already engaged to somebody else? Awkward.
It is. I like that. I like that analogy.
But
that
I love
happens.
you guys. You guys are great, man. I love Tim. I love Chris. You guys are awesome. It's not awkward because you guys involve everybody and you are Pac-12 fans. So anyway, I just wanted to point out Utah's defense, I think, is what's going to help them if they can beat Oregon. I think their offense can do enough. It's going to be if the defense shows up in Autzen. And Autzen's worst loss ever in history is at the hands of the two Utes. FYI.
Hey, we love you guys, and we love having you call in. We love having you part of the show. And I just want to give a shout out to all the Ute fans because Utah does not get enough credit. Utah has an incredible fan base. They have been a steady force in the Pac-12. And we talked a little bit about realignment. You guys, we talked about SMU. We talked about San Diego State. Utah is one of the many examples of exactly how to do realignment right. Utah has just absolutely been on an upward trajectory with all of their sports programs, their academics, they're members of the AAU now. Like literally Utah wrote the book on how to do expansion right, and go Utes, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thanks for having us on.
Guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Good luck, Utes.
Yeah, the Utes have been absolutely the team the last couple of years, just holding the Pac-12 flag.
There's a lot of Southern California high school graduates that are going to Utah. Just in my inner circle of friends, I know 5 Utah Utes in the last 2 years that are going to the school.
Yeah, it's a great place. All right, guys, we got 2 more folks joining us. We got friend of the show, Will ND, who's gonna hopefully give us a little bit of insight as well into this Notre Dame Navy game, and then we got also friend of the show, Sean Garner. Guys, welcome.
What's up?
What's going on?
What do you guys think about these games coming up this week?
Guys, I'm a little disappointed. You didn't cover the most interesting contest going on in LA.
Which one?
Year. The Bass Caruso contest there.
Yeah, what was your take on that one?
I think it's looking like Caruso's probably going to pull it out, but interesting. Still neck and neck. No call on it yet.
And for those of you guys who don't know, Rick Caruso, running for LA mayor, we still don't know yet, was the longtime chairman of the USC Board of Trustees. He's the guy that brought us President Carol Folt. And then he and Suzanne Nora Johnson, who's one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. She's awesome. She and he worked together. She's the new chair. They worked together on bringing us Mike Bone, and they've worked on bringing us Lincoln Riley. So when you see the pictures of Lincoln Riley up there with Mike Bone and Dr. Folt, that's Rick Caruso with him, who may become Mayor Caruso. So a little bit of a Trojan billionaire in the mayor's office.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to him. Did we lose Will there? Will,
can you hear us?
Yeah. Am I back? Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
All right, sorry. I was taking a little look at the games this week.
Will, what do you think about? Tell us real quick. Will, tell us about the Irish.
Well,
this is big for USC coming up. This USC Notre Dame game is going to be a big one.
Oh yeah, it would have been a big one even if we would have lost close to the Taters, but we pulled it out, and we pulled it out big. And I'm just so excited about our O-line. I think it might be our best O-line since 2017. So.
And has a question for you. We're just wondering: is the ACC going to FedEx that their championship trophy to Stanford now, or do they need to send someone to pick it up?
I think we need to send a Stanford tree. We needed to do me and the Stanford tree, a little joy ride over to, I think it's Charlotte. It's the ACC
it's in Charlotte, yeah.
So yeah, do a little joy ride to the Queen City, and we can
a little joy ride of you and the tree. I like it.
Yeah, down to the Queen City and pick up the trophy.
You know, he would totally do that too.
I know. That's what makes him great. That's what makes him the Stanford tree.
He is the Stanford tree, exactly. Free the tree, because Stanford and Notre Dame that game should be the ACC championship at this point.
Yeah.
Navy is not having a great year, but any chance of scariness? I see, and Will, you probably don't remember this. I grew up hearing Lou Holtz just always talk about how strong Navy was going to be, and then just railing them out of the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the guys need to be prepared for the triple option because they weren't prepared for Stanford, they weren't prepared for Marshall, so they gotta be prepared for the midshipmen. Have a ton of respect for everyone that goes to Navy. I have one of my friends. He ended up going to Gonzaga private school, but he goes to Navy. He's awesome. So just a lot of respect for Navy and the Rip Miller Trophy.
I've always been had the philosophy that if I was running any of these programs, I would never ever schedule games against these teams, against any of these service academy teams. I mean, you spend a whole
long-standing, but this is a long-standing rival. It goes back decades and decades and decades.
I understand that completely, but I don't think it serves the program any good to play them. One, generally, they can be pretty good. They can be pretty tough. So
they can beat you.
But,
They can tenderize you too.
but there's, I mean, like you spend a whole week every single year preparing for a brand of football you never play any other time.
Yeah, well, the thing is, after this game, we got BC, who might be worse than Colorado. So
Yeah.
I'm not too, and we could spend that week preparing for USC. So we'll have 2 weeks for USC still. So
Yeah, we get UCLA. You guys get Boston College.
And the other thing, by the way, is guys, Notre Dame is run by the Fathers of the Holy Cross, I think, isn't it, Will?
Yep.
And Boston College is the Jesuits. And if you're not Jesuit, Will, what is the number one rule?
If you're not, trash on the Jesuits. Yeah.
If you're not Jesuit, then my dad who went to Catholic school told us a long time ago. If you're not for the Jesuit, if you are not at a Jesuit school, your number one rule is beat the Jesuit school.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame and BC, there is a whole fundamental religious layer of this within the Catholic Church that we got to remember happens with that game.
And there's some history of them upsetting us. There's some history of them upsetting us, especially in the 90s. So
distant history. Glenn Foley. And,
there is. And however,
they
to the Jesuits, that's not an upset.
Hold on, there've been upsets since the 90s.
Well, we were bad in during the time that they beat us.
Yeah,
so it wasn't really an upset because we were bad.
Bob Davie, didn't he list them?
Yeah, well, probably, but the Bob Davie teams weren't very good.
But Boston College was a better program than Notre Dame, probably from like 98 through 2010. They probably overall were a better squad during that.
Yeah,
period.
besides those 2 Brady Quinn years, the last 2 Brady Quinn years, they probably were a better program.
Yeah, so I mean, they're one of these schools almost like Stanford.
Yeah.
Now I'm having a hard time understanding how Stanford got so bad so quickly. Right here, I don't know. Do you guys have any insight on this? Because they were, I mean, it wasn't even after Harbaugh left, they were really, really good for about 6-7 years. After
they had Christian McCaffrey helped a lot.
There's a number of factors.
I mean, they were really good for a long time.
The biggest thing is Derek Mason and Mike Bloomgren went on to better pastures, the defensive offensive coordinators. Bloomgren was a big guy behind the whole intellectual brutality and like building up those big offensive lines that we saw. And then Derek Mason is also recruiting those front sevens. There were some really good we think of those really good Stanford teams. They were tough and mean sons of bitches. They would just grind you.
A good example.
The transfer portal is a one-way street for them.
Yeah, then grad transfers as well.
A good example would be take a look at Clemson. Now that they lost Venables and Tony Scott, I believe was his name.
Jeff Scott.
I'm sorry, Jeff Scott, and then Tony
Elliott.
Tony Elliott.
Yeah. So they're going through some transition, and very similar to what Chris just brought up. Stanford is not a player in the transfer portal just because of academics and acceptance. You look at Clemson, and Dabo Swinney has a philosophy that he doesn't currently operate through the transfer portal. So you're seeing a little bit of a different Clemson in 1 year, maybe 2 years, than you're used to seeing. And take a look at Stanford. That's what's happened over the last 5 or 6 years, slowly.
Dabo is also recruiting within, and it's not working. So, and I don't think he wants to fire his friends.
I was going to say about Stanford, I've heard some conflicting things about like their academic standards for athletes. I've heard
brutal.
No, it's hard. And then their grad guys have to transfer out because they're not getting accepted.
They won't take their own kids to like just be in grad school to play football.
Their own kids can't always stay their full eligibility because they don't necessarily get into their own grad school.
Yeah, that actually happened. I mean, I'm a big college wrestling fan, and their best wrestler from this past year actually had to transfer it. Poor kid ended up in Iowa, so he's doing just fine. But that was the story with him. He just could not get into grad school.
Well, Sean, do you know about the only transfer they got in for football this year?
No.
So the only transfer they got in for football this year was actually captain of Lincoln Riley's defense. He's actually probably the only good defensive player they have. captain of Lincoln Riley's defense at Oklahoma, who is a guy that had like perfect grades at Oklahoma, started a nonprofit to help serve education things for the Black community in Tulsa, where he was from.
Sounds like a real loser.
Yeah, and was actually selected as the undergraduate representative on the NCAA's football oversight committee.
That's awesome.
And then he gets into, get this guy though, guys. He gets into Stanford. I think he's in the MBA program. I forget. I think he's in their MBA program, which is the number 2 MBA program in the world. And he gets into the MBA program on a full ride academic scholarship, and then calls up David Shaw, and he's like, "Yeah, so I'm coming to Stanford. You guys need some help next year?"
God,
that's the only one they got.
I can't even imagine being a full-time athlete and then having the kind of course load, the academic overhead that it takes. It seems insane to me that they're even competing at this level.
Well, and you guys have seen the interview real quick. You guys have seen the interview with the Stanford Tree, right? The kid is CEO of 2 video games that he founded. That's a Stanford kid.
Sean, it is a hell of a workload for somebody, but the academic support that the athletes do get, I'm not saying it mitigates all those hours, but they have tons of support and help, especially at Notre Dame where they write papers and stuff for them. So it really helps out. Really helps. Sorry, Will.
I like it. Oh.
Yeah.
Before you go, how about the fact that we were talking the off season, we were talking about that offensive line for Notre Dame, and I was like, we were all up for it, and then it was gone. But it's probably taken them those 8-9 games to shake the Jeff Quinn off them. Oh yeah, and, Harry Heidstad stand to get that, his training into those guys, and they unfortunately decided to become world beaters a couple of games before they play USC. So congratulations. I'm not very happy about it.
Yeah, Harry's Hogs are back, man. Also, our special teams has also taken a huge step forward this year because Brian Kelly's special teams coordinator, the only coach that actually wanted to go with him to LSU, Brian Polian, he always played not to lose with special teams and was very conservative. But now we got Brian Mason, who might be the best special teams coordinator in the country. And right now we're leading
7-8 blocked punts,
Yeah.
And then early on, we'll never know. But getting that block punt, then that interception, and like we talked about, Clemson's not a come from behind kind of team. It's not really built for that. Jumping at that 21-point lead on the block punt and returned, and then also that interception on the doorstep, that was a hell of a start for you guys.
Yeah, man, it was awesome.
Notre Dame has like the weirdest resume of results I've ever seen, weirdest schedule and results I've ever seen this year. They lose to Marshall and Stanford, but also beat Clemson, North Carolina. They play Ohio State closer than anybody else the entire year. Mm-hmm. Man, it's just been it's nuts how up and down they've been.
Yeah, well, a big reason why we're playing better right now is because Marcus Freeman, he took Al Golden and Tommy Reese into his room and he said, you guys got to call plays not to make yourselves look smart, but to make us win. Like, simple it up a bit, and it's really helped. So hopefully we can go 10-3, but one game at a time, because I've learned from before I shouldn't just overlook these group of 5 teams.
All right, maybe with Clemson, maybe Dabo's going to take a pace from Brian Kelly and fire all of his friends.
Oh, that was Jack Swarbrick made him fire his friends. So
right.
yeah.
So all right, real quick, guys, any picks before you head off?
I think the Ducks will win big this week. I'm really impressed by them. Like, they're just smoking everyone after that Wazoo game. So Ducks big.
I think that game's going to be closer than most people are expecting. I think there's going to be points all over the place. I think Penix is going to throw for around 400, and it'll be a shootout. The Ducks might end up covering in just some sort of weird way, but I think that's going to be a really entertaining, really fun battle throughout.
Gonna be fun. Hey guys, thank you so much for calling in.
Of course.
Hold on 1 second. I gotta ask Will and D one question.
What's up, Rick?
You were at what's up, man? You were at Notre Dame for the Clemson game. Did you take my advice? Did you go light a candle?
My dad did, but
Okay,
I
but
forgot.
Did you light it? Did you light it? You didn't light a candle.
You didn't
I
go to the
forgot.
grotto?
Yeah.
Oh well, your
But
dad.
we did go. We did. Yeah, we
What
did
kind
go
of
to the
Catholic
grotto.
are you, Will? If you went to Notre Dame,
I
didn't go to
gave
the
you
grotto, light a candle?
You went against my advice. Luckily, your father listened. But you know what that means for you, Will?
What?
You were going to lose when you come to the college. If you didn't light a candle, you didn't.
Whoa!
Oh.
Oh, hey, buddy. I'm just telling you right now, man. That's bad mojo. You don't diss LBC's juju. You did it.
You dissed LBC's juju, and your Irish are going to pay the price in the collie.
Yeah.
All your
there you
fault,
go.
Will.
All right, we'll see.
All
We'll see.
your fault. I love it.
Listen,
And Will,
guys.
thank you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Fight on, Will. All right. Next up, we've got Jack and DeReal MVP. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hello.
Oh,
How are
we
you
lost
guys?
Jack.
Well, you know,
right.
LBC, you
While we lost Jack, we're replacing him with Mike, who also wanted to chat with DeReal. So we've got both of you guys here to talk about the Pac-12. What do you guys think about the games this week?
I think there's a great set of games on this week. Looking forward to Oregon, Washington the most. I think Oregon's going to dominate, show why they should be the best team in the Pac-12, and cruise away with it. I think Washington is a good team, but I think they are clearly the fifth best team, even though Tim, for whatever reason, has them at eighth. I don't understand that at all.
I agree with you, DeReal. I agree with you on that one.
If you watched that game Friday and you came across really impressed, then more power to you. I just wasn't that impressed.
But Team A beat Team B on the field. You can't reward the team that lost.
You can if you watch the game on the road. No, see, that's what you got to realize. When I was told we were doing these power rankings, I was told that this is if the two teams meet on a neutral field, where would you put these guys head to head? Head to head in Seattle. Huskies, I have all mad props to Husky Stadium and the Husky fans and all that. And Oregon State's not the same team on the road. On a neutral field, I think that they are a better team. That's why I have them that way. It's very tight in that middle for me.
And real quick, guys,
at the top for me.
A quick thank you to Jay. Jay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we're always glad to have you. You got to stick around. You got to come around more often and call in.
So, DeReal, as a SEC fan, you'll appreciate what Tim has done here. Is Tim has SC number 1, right? And so to justify that ranking, the teams that SC hasn't played, like Washington, have to go lower in the rankings than the teams that SC has played, like Washington State and Oregon State. That way, you prop up your own strength of schedule by having higher rated teams that you've beaten than your opponents.
You give me way too much credit. That's to take too much thinking of my part.
Now, let me throw this out there, and Josh Pate brought this up just to mess with you guys a bit, okay? LSU loses to Arkansas and Texas A&M. Alabama wins out and goes 11-2.
DeReal, when you say those words on this show, all we hear are the Peanuts parents being like, Baton Rouge.
Can I interject?
Interject, Mike.
Because you play that scenario out, LSU should be the one to go because LSU has the head-to-head. Are we not counting everything that we're supposed to count to make the resumes the best possible resumes? We want the 4 best teams, guys. And yes, Mark made a point to me the other day. You can have a 2-loss team in the top 4 as long as they're a conference champion.
I think that's a good point. And guys, that might be a real interesting point coming up where, for example, Utah to beat Oregon and beat USC or UCLA.
Yeah, I think Utah is a dark horse. I actually think Oregon is out of it because if they're the 4 seed, and Georgia's the 1 seed, I think with just human beings in general, they're going to look at the 46-point loss to them and think, are we really going to have this as a rematch? And I think that same issue would affect Tennessee, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or LSU.
Right.
Not that they're going to get in.
They'll just find a way to rank Oregon 3 to avoid it.
One thing, and then we'll stop talking about the SEC because we got revolt in the chat. One thing I thought was a really good point from the chairman of the committee is he said, yeah, Oregon lost big and LSU lost, and Tennessee lost big, and they're pretty much the same loss. So the chairman of the committee has actually been more forgiving to Oregon than I was. We're gonna hear in just a minute from Mikey G about his thoughts on that, and I think he's gonna have strong opinions on that. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
but guys, real quick, back to the pack. What do you guys? You guys think any upsets?
The Oregon loss is an elimination loss, as well as with Tennessee. I wonder if they're both eliminated.
So the chairman of the committee seems to think no. But I think
the difference between Tennessee and Oregon. Oregon was the first game of the season a long time ago. I would hope this committee is full of football people that know that a team is not the same. And yes, I've heard the argument that, oh, well, Georgia's also probably a better team. True. But the when you're talking about a brand new defense, brand new offense, first time head coach, I'm thinking the difference in and the improvements could be vastly greater, just given the fact that you have Georgia's not that much more higher to go up, but the ceiling was almost limitless for Oregon. That was the game one in a very strange circumstances on the road and a de facto home game for Georgia. So I don't see apples. I see them, as a matter of fact, as the Tennessee loss, and it's not just a recency bias. It's later in the season. We all know
you're exactly right, Tim.
Oregon is rolling right now. There's no way that score they lose by that much.
Well,
no
I
way.
think Oregon's main problem is their schedule coming up is so difficult. I don't see any team that would go 3-0 with their schedule they've got remaining.
I fear they might.
Yeah,
a playoff team would.
I don't know. There's some playoff teams. I don't know if Michigan or Ohio State would go 3-0 with this schedule. Washington's a top 25 team. Utah's a really good team. Oregon State is a really, really good team. I still think they're a top 25 team, top 30 team in the country. It's going to be difficult. And then you got a Pac-12 title game. That's
OSU's a top 15 team at home.
Oh, yeah. I can believe that based on what I've seen them play. I mean, they look legit.
And that's why I say, Darrell, that if Oregon does that and wins out, they will get into the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's why I said playoff team would do that. A playoff team will win those three.
And they probably aren't. But again, the other thing, and one of the things we try not to do on the show is get too much into if this and if that and if that. But like a lot of that other stuff is going to sort itself out.
Yep.
And we're going to see some more losses from some of those teams. And I think that they'll probably the stuff tends to work out more than we often think.
Tony's a member in college football. That's what we do.
You're right. The a few games I'll pick for this week. I guess I'll root for Notre Dame this week. But next week they play Boston College before USC, and possible trap game with Boston College. Utah versus Stanford. Give me Stanford. You know what? Give me Stanford.
I like that pick, Darrell.
Darrell,
Darrell is reporting the tree.
Darrell, you're already 0-2 on your predictions on this show, right? Are you trying to go 0-4 right now?
I might go 0-5, but you know what?
I like
it. Colorado as well.
Darrell, I respect the bravery.
For the sake of it.
You said Colorado too?
I'll take Colorado. Give me
you just lost that one already.
Rick, he's channeling inner Rick on that one. He's going rogue.
Give me Buffalo and give me the tree this week to upset. Has there been a crazy Pac-12 week yet?
Not really.
At some point, you guys, we're gonna realize that Darrell is absolutely trolling us on every time he calls with his predictions,
and we love it. Hold on, we got breaking news right there.
Oh.
Live breaking news.
What are the Pac-12 games this week?
What did you say, Mike? I'm sorry.
What are the Pac-12 games this week?
Well, we went over all of them. The big one is really Oregon and Washington. So we're gonna see what happens with that one.
Okay.
Real quick, anything else, guys, before we got to move on?
No. Good luck to everybody's team this week, especially Stanford and Colorado.
I like it. Really, you made the picks. We love it.
I want some chaos. I want some upsets. The Pac-12 has let me down. I heard there were going to be tons of upsets this year. Everything was going to go insane. A 6-3 team was going to win. That type of thing. I want some upsets. I'm tired of the top four separating themselves.
I don't know if you know this. The top four are undefeated against the other 8.
That's got to change eventually, right?
I think you've been watching too much Pac-12 the last 4 years when you had buffoons running each one of the schools. That's been changed now.
USC is actually a powerhouse again, Daryl. They are actually almost back to Bush Leinart status, in my opinion.
Almost.
When I actually like USC.
We are light years away on defense, but I appreciate your moxie.
We do. We appreciate the love. We got a little more rungs to climb on defense. Seal up that hole.
It's a big
first person, by the way, to say in this season, give me the Buffaloes.
You are.
No,
and I like it.
No, Rick took the Buffaloes.
Oh, Rick did take CU one time.
Yeah.
So you're not a trailblazer on our show, Daryl.
Oh man, well they gotta win. So you know what? I want them to double their win total this week.
I like it. Hey guys, thank you so much. We're glad to have you. Come back every time.
Yeah, good luck, guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Good luck. See you guys.
Thank you guys. All right. Next up to bat, we got 2 awesome friends of the show, 2 really smart guys who know what they're talking about. Actually, hold on, Jeffrey. Can we hold off on you for just a minute? Because we got another Duck who just came in, and we want to hit on Oregon. So we just got Ben and Mikey G here to talk about the Ducks and the Dogs. Guys, what do you think about the big game coming up?
Well, first I want to touch on DeReal. This is DeReal when he called in. He's just reeling you guys in. It's like he only does that.
Yeah.
He does that on
and we
this
love
channel. Yeah, but when you listen to him on this channel, it's a completely different story. Like it's all SEC, Pac-12, and he just wants us to engage cannibal mode. That's all he wants. He wants the SEC to have 3 teams in, and if it means say go Pac-12, then that's what he's going to do. So I don't buy any of it. Don't drink that rat poison. It's bad.
In fact, Mikey, I don't know if you saw last night, we provided a special trip for the crowd inside the mind of DeReal MVP for DeReal's ideal playoffs. It was last night's show with Mark.
And Mikey, you missed out. There's a guy in Mark's show that actually was doing a 4 SEC team scenario. So I predicted next week they'd have some yokel on there saying there's going to be a 5-team SEC playoff coming up next week. So that's the only way they can top it.
They're gonna add an additional slot. It's gonna be a wild card game. I don't know.
Yeah, but all this SEC talk's giving me a rash. You guys have hate week.
Yeah, apologies to Jeffrey.
We do.
What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, all this CFP talk, I've been on here before and said how much I'm not in that mode yet. I just want to get through these 3 games, then we can talk. I think it's safe to start thinking about the conference championship and the likelihood of SC being there. It looks pretty promising, but I think that this is a tricky thing, right? Like we talk a lot about trap games, and I don't really consider this one a trap game, but the problem is that everybody keeps talking about how we turned it around. And while I agree with that conceptually, I have a problem with week 1 and comparing that sample with the rest of our 8 games, because the turnaround happens so quickly, right? So we go up against Eastern Washington, we blow them out. We go against BYU, we blow them out. Wazoo, we stumble. But the remainder of the schedule, we just have this incredible offense, and we're just like lighting it up. That's fantastic. I am completely on board with that. But that has me getting, now that we're about to get into the meat schedule, what does that look like against a quality passing attack in Washington? What does it look like against a respectable defense in Utah? And then you always have, the real trap game, which is the Civil War. So I don't know. I am not completely there yet. I mean, it's our spot to lose. The fact that we're number 6, I think, is very promising. Like, if we were to win out, I think it's all but guaranteed that we're in there. And that may sound blasphemous to the likes of the Real and other people in the country, but I just think that the likelihood of the remainder of those 5 teams winning out is, well, not only is it not likely, it's not possible with head-to-head matchups upcoming. And so I just and I don't know if you guys ever talk about or have ever had Ryan Winter, Sports Chat 503 on the show. If not, I would highly recommend it. But we were just talking yesterday about the possibility of this dream matchup where we're in the 3 seed. We play an Ohio State, make it past them, and we go Redemption Road fully and go against Georgia in the title game. So that has me kind of fired up. But again, I'm a lot more measured with this stuff. So let's go beat the Huskies. Let's humble them once again.
To give you a little bit of confidence, I feel like you've already played a good passing attack with a QB that had like a completion percentage of like over 70%, and you beat them by 15 points rather convincingly. And I think you've already beat a better version of what this Washington team is.
Yeah, and to go back to what you said, I mean it sincerely, Mikey. I don't think it was an overnight turnaround for you guys. I think that you had a steady progression because it was good to have the teams you had early on. Like right now, if you played Washington State, I think you guys beat them by a couple touchdowns. But early on the season, when these guys are learning new systems on both sides of the ball, and you did need that time to warm up. I think that just like most good teams, you guys are getting better every week. I don't know where would Oregon be right now if they had to have played Utah, maybe, and Washington in week 3 or 4. I don't know. I think that you guys are catching them at the right spot. You're playing your toughest teams outside UCLA towards the end of the season here, and I think you're ready for them. And I think that has to do with the fact that your team and your coach has matured over these 8-9 games. It's been a rapid climb, but you guys have been getting better, and which tells me that team we saw against Georgia is not the team we're watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, you don't have to convince me, right? Like, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you've said. I just think that the narrative up to this point is that we're not the same team, and that's all that people are focusing on. I think if we just headlong ourselves into the buzzsaw again, I mean, I think that is a dangerous idea when you're not considering what beat us last time, what Georgia beat us. We're talking about Darnell Washington. We're talking about Stetson Bennett. We're talking about Brock Bowers. We're talking about these capabilities that we didn't have answers for. And while our secondary and our linebacker core has improved, I don't know that it's stepped up to the elite level of Georgia. And so that's why I temper it. And I'm fully aware that is not the popular take. I know that most of our Duck fans are going to be like, going to the CFP, it's CFP or bust. Let's do this thing. But I don't count myself in that crowd because I just don't want it to be another, twofer like it was last year against Utah.
Mikey, what do you think about?
Go
ahead.
Well, I just got to thank LBC because he recommended this guy.
Great
he's got it.
You're the bomb, Mikey.
Let me tell you, fellas.
Okay.
Let me tell you, fellas, this beer is no joke. At the hazy, I'm not proud of the fact that it has a beer on the can. If I'd known that when I tasted it, I probably would have gone elsewhere. But take a look at this; it is fantastic.
I love it, man.
Hold on, we're zooming out, giving you zoom.
Mikey G, have you ever had a Great Notion beer before?
No, and that will definitely. It will definitely in the fridge.
They're one of the top breweries, in the country, hands down.
Yeah, and I'm surprised I hadn't heard of it. I mean, I think maybe the namesake. I've read the book. It's about a logger, like a legitimate lumberjack logger. And so, but anyway, I don't know if that's where they got their name, but it doesn't really matter because the beer is amazing. And I'll just plug this since it is a sports show, right? Like sport. we've got this guy, which honestly is probably not. They probably didn't buy the rights at all for this. I mean, I don't know if Gatorade's going to come after him, or even the Blazers. They got the Blazers on the can, but it is a red. It is a red Gatorade seltzer, and it is amazing. Like, I'm not a seltzer guy, but the fact that you can drink it like a Gatorade and not even realize it, it's pretty impressive. So,
love it, man.
I love it. That's awesome. See, LVC's beer picks are to die for, guys. Hey, guys, what do you think about quick? What do you think? Any chance of upset? Hate week. We got the dogs. I mean, I know we like to talk smack, but is there any chance of surprise here?
No.
So I think in years past, I would absolutely think that was the case. And I've said it on this show before that anytime I go into a game thinking otherwise, I feel like that is exactly the game that we lose. So that's just built into a DNA of a Duck fan, I think. So, you know, I feel more confident. I mean, we have, Tim summarized it beautifully. We have, I think, in the way and if we were going to peak at the time at this hit, right, other than the week following. And we got some bigger games ahead of us too.
Yeah. So
this game,
if you had to rank them, and Ben, you have three pretty tough opponents. Where do you rank the three? So where would you rank at OSU? You have Utah at home, and then you have Washington at home. And I mean, I know Kincaid's no Bowers, but yeah, he's a pretty damn good tight end. So I'm curious where are you going to rank those three?
So just me personally, Utah. I mean, it's no surprise. I think most people think Utah, but I think second to Utah's is going to be the Beavs. I really like Jonathan Smith. Happen to have a Musgrave kid on their team that's pretty legit. He has a dad who went to Oregon, which is just another reason to be pissed off at the Beavs. But they just it's in Corvallis, and that worries me. It doesn't matter how much better we are than the Beavs. They somehow sucker punch us, and sometimes it catches us off guard, especially if we roll up into Corvallis. That's even more alarming, right? So yeah, and the fact that we're at Autzen with the other two is kind of
that's huge,
all but certain. That is a big deal. So yeah, that's just my take on it. And if I had to pick between the two of y'all, SC and UCLA in the championship game, obviously I want the prospect of playing SC. So
I like it.
Mikey G and Ben, I want to share this with you guys. Like your fan base, the USC fan base is kind of torn. There's some that would rather just play in the Rose Bowl, college football playoff. Hey, if it happens, it happens, whatever. But what I want to share with you is the BS that is spewed by the college football committee. And I know that, Ben, you might think I'm an old dude, but I've seen this movie several times before, and I see him diss USC and the Pac-12. You cannot deny the Pac-12 this year. There are 4 very good teams that are being discounted in their own respect. Actually, I think USC is overrated. We should be behind UCLA and Oregon, obviously. But here's one thing you have to watch for as we continue, because the College Football Committee is going to talk about LSU and how much of an improvement they've made since that first game. They're going to preach that story, okay? Because Brian Kelly is a known coach, all right? And he's respected, and it's LSU, it's SEC. But let me tell you, they lost at home by 1 point. Yes, it was in New Orleans, but that is at home. Now, if they're going to talk that story, which they will, you're looking at a head coach that's been a head coach for Notre Dame and at Cincinnati and at Grand Valley State. He'd been a head coach for probably 20 years, okay? Now, if they can make an improvement, well, then what about Oregon? Oregon goes against the national championship in their backyard in Atlanta with a first-time head coach, first-time coordinators, a brand-new quarterback, new systems. So watch for that. Watch for that developing story because they're gonna go ahead and talk about it because it's a cute little story with LSU and Brian Kelly.
No,
If
I
you're
agree
All
fully.
right, guys, real quick, because we got some other folks waiting. Give us your final take and pick on the Ducks and the Dogs.
Go for it, Mikey.
1,000,000 to 0.
That's real hate.
I like it. That is some hate. I see dubs down. And real quick before
I
you
think
go,
Pickles would say something.
Connor was asking who makes the red beer or the Gatorade beer.
Great Notion.
Is that the Great Notion
the
too?
Gatorade. It is also Great Notion. Yeah.
It's also Great
And
Notion.
that no
Connor,
that
it's
you guys
also
had on
Great
earlier,
Notion.
the wrecking ball. That's good stuff.
Hey, Connor asked, where can you buy the Great Notion Gatorade Red Seltzer? Mikey G, where'd you pick?
I got it at the brewery or at their little
brewery?
storefront. So I don't know that they have an online thing, but if you buy beer over or have it shipped, it's going to be ridiculously expensive. So I would imagine that those specialty shops like an ABC or something might have something, or they
All
might
right,
have
Connor,
an
that's
option
where you
like
get
that.
it. All right, Ben, what do you? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ben, what do you think about the game?
No, I'm the same. I think the first half might be close. Second half, the adjustments Oregon makes. I talked to Tim this few nights ago about it. The secondary gives up some of the passing yards because the linebackers play so close to the line, and that's the adjustment in the second half. They want pressure, but then they back out a little bit more to cover some stuff. And I love Mikey, and we're not all CFP bound type of people. This is game by game. Let's do what we do, and just it's a great season. Looking fucking forward to it. And language, and join me too. Me and Brandon and maybe Mikey sometimes on the Oregon post game show, following the Oregon shows or Oregon games, or the next day depending on our schedules and stuff like that on the Oregon channel for the Voice of College Football.
And you guys, they do a really great job with that. So if you're a Ducks fan, definitely check out the Oregon post games here on the Voice of College Football channel.
Hey, Mikey, one more time?
An extra dubs down.
Sorry,
All
Sergeant
right.
Pickles.
Good luck, guys, and thanks for
Go
calling in.
Ducks.
All right,
See you
we'll talk
guys.
to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now, guys, I think we have a counter to that. We've got Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, and we're echoing. Somebody's echoing. If you can close your YouTube. That might be Sergeant Pickles, I think. And Sergeant Pickles, the UW fan. Sergeant Pickles,
Are we
close your
good
YouTube
now?
window. Jeffrey, well, Sergeant Pickles closes his YouTube window because he's echoing. Jeffrey, what are your thoughts on the
Have we
game
made
this
it?
week? Oh, so go ahead, Sergeant Pickles.
Are we working now?
All right, we're working now, I think. All right, what Sergeant
Okay.
Pickles, give us your take on this. This is a big game. Your Dogs are going to Eugene. Do they have a shot?
Well, first off, talking to the two quackers, they're pretending to be very polite. They're not sorry. Don't lie to me. You can't lie to me. But yeah, it's been pretty anxious. I was hoping for a little bit of a stronger showing against the Beavs. I was talking to some of the Beaver fans in chat. I think if you play, ignoring the monsoon weather, we had, I think if you play that game 10 times, the Beavs win 5 and the Dogs probably win 5. I think it's pretty evenly matched. What my head's trying to tell me with this Duck game, it's tough that it's an Autzen, of course. And Oregon's really turned it on the last few weeks. There's no denying that. They've definitely made the adjustments, and kind of seems like the Jekyll and Hyde Bo Nix has kind of ironed out a lot of the issues, or they've worked it around him so that he's, pretty much catering to his strengths. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think for me, it's kind of a cliche to say it's in the lines, but UW's pass protection's been excellent. It's allowed Penix to throw the deep ball, and he's got multiple receivers that can go, 30, 40, 50 yards at a time. I know Oregon's got the athletes on the back end to stay with them, so it's just about making those contested catches. I think the one item I think is really going to turn it and actually give UW a chance is if the defensive line can generate a good pass rush. Because I think if you hurry Bo Nix, yes, he can escape a little bit, but you can, kind of hurry him and fluster him and force a few mistakes here and there. And, it only takes one Kenny Wheaton to flip the game.
That is true. Jeffrey, what do you think about this game coming up?
I think it's really interesting. I was just going to talk about real quick about that. I think it's interesting and good. I'm glad they did it, that they ranked TCU over Tennessee and Oregon over LSU, because I did have some concerns that they were going to rank Tennessee 4th, TCU 5th, and then LSU Oregon, but they did the right thing. Oregon should be over LSU. I mean, like, Darrell was killing me when he was talking about Oregon and how, they should be automatically eliminated, and Tennessee automatically eliminated for losing to Georgia. That's not how it works. I mean, that is just not how it works. Oregon is a much better team today. If they went out, they're in the playoff. Again, I do agree that it's going to be very tough for them to win out, but Oregon is a much better team now. And even though, obviously, talking about this game, Penix, I mean, obviously he was from Indiana, so I know what he can do. But I do think Oregon, if this was at Washington, I'd pick Washington. But since it's at home, I'm gonna lean Oregon.
I like it. Sergeant Pickles, is he wrong?
Yeah, I think that's, it's fair. I don't think anyone's, crazy for picking the Ducks, especially at home, and coming off the type of season we've had. It's really, you probably could have said it at the beginning of the year also, but it's Kalen DeBoer's biggest test. Can he really step up when it means the most? Looking back on the UCLA game, that was a huge one, but I don't think any of us could have predicted the kind of season the Bruins have had. It definitely sets a tone for the rest of your coaching tenure if you can get a win over the Ducks. So I don't think there's going to be any lack of focus or lack of motivation by the Huskies.
And I understand Kalen DeBoer said this week that since he got the job, there has not been a speaking engagement where he was not reminded of the importance of beating the Ducks.
Yeah, the Quackers seem to have latched onto that. And it's like, man, we live rent-free. You were just talking about us every day of the week. I'm like, he's the coach of the team, and you're our biggest rival. Of course, everyone's talking to him about it. But they seem to love pretending like all we think about is, what uniform combination they're going to come up with this week and how much we hate it, when they're just too busy. I've heard plenty of people throw out, "Oh, Washington's just a ranked resume builder for us." I'm like, don't pretend you don't care. It's fine to talk smack. Don't pretend you don't.
I have a question about the uniforms. Just because I'm concerned about liability. Does the University of Washington Health Center, for students and fans and everyone exposed to those uniforms, do you guys provide free treatment for cirrhosis of the eye? Or how does that work?
I mean, I just assumed it was some research program Oregon's been doing into like glaucoma and cataract, surgery.
How to cause them?
I don't know why they claim it was the duck egg print uniforms from earlier this year. Everyone's talking about how great they are. All I saw was bird crap, so I don't know where they're coming from on those ones.
There needs to be a limit on yellow on uniforms. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. The Baylor, yes. Oregon, like banana condom look is just not doing it for anybody. No bananas.
Yep, the highlighter pen was cool once until about one quarter into the game when we realized we didn't want to watch it anymore.
Yeah, it was cool when we were all freshmen and we'd like put them in a vodka bottle and let them glow in a black light. Maybe that was just a USC dorm thing. Connor Johnson predicts Ducks lose 3 straight. Connor with the bold pick out of Corvallis. I like it.
That's really
cool. Gummy just said there's a limit on yellow unless you work at an airport.
That's a good one, Gumby.
I like that one,
there
Gumby.
is a weird camaraderie with. Yeah, there's a weird camaraderie with Huskies and Beaver fans because we talk a lot of smack. Like I've been on in Corvallis, with my Husky hat and a shirt on, and people kind of give you crap, but it's pretty mild. But most of them, after give each other a little stick, we'll start talking about how much we hate the Ducks. It's the thing that binds us all together. It's beautiful.
The enemy of my enemy. There you go.
He's my friend.
Every time.
Jeffrey, what do you think about these games coming up this week?
I think it's really interesting about, another thing Darrell was talking about, obviously the upsets. He would never want that to happen in the SEC. You wouldn't want the top SEC teams to go down to Vanderbilt or Missouri or whatever, but I don't see any upsets happening really. I think that I think the Pac-12 is going to take care of business. I don't think Colorado has any chance against USC, even though USC has been struggling the last 2 games against Arizona and California. That California result really shocked me when it was like they only won by 6. They should have won by more. But I think that USC is going to be able to handle Colorado just fine. Colorado's still not good, and USC is just they're going to run all over them. And then in the other games, I mean, you got Stanford, Utah. I know Stanford is a spoiler, but it's at Utah, and as Tim always says, Rice Eccles is such a tough place to play, and Utah is so much different at home. If it was at Stanford, maybe, but no, they're not. They're not going to win. Arizona at UCLA. I don't see Arizona winning at UCLA either. This one maybe is a little bit more likely, but still, UCLA is probably going to get it done easily. And then the other 2 games, Cal and Oregon State. This one's kind of iffy, but I'm going to go with Oregon State. It's at home, and Cal is really struggling still overall. And in the last game, there's one more, Washington State, I think. Yeah, Washington State and Arizona State. I'll probably go with Washington State as well. They're at home. Arizona State has improved since Herm Edwards has been fired, but I'm going to go with Washington State. So those are my picks.
Good picks.
I like them.
Nice.
Sergeant Pickles, do you think any other upsets this weekend? Or do we follow the path?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to. I don't know if Wazoo's considered enough. I haven't actually looked at who would technically be favored in some of these games, but I think Wazoo's got a good shout to beat them. I will say, I mean, Tim kind of covering your bases with the injury talk. I love it, but I think Colorado actually hangs with SC for quite a while, but they do pull away in the end. Maybe Colorado covers. I don't know what the line is on that.
I think it's like 85, Pickles.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of which games. What's that?
I think it's 85. SC minus 85. I think
the real number is like 34. I think it's still.
You're definitely not covering. Then take the buffs and the points.
Have you watched Colorado, Pickles?
Yeah.
They can't score and they can't stop anybody.
What's that?
They can't score and they can't stop anybody.
They still got to win this year. I mean, every team's due. I mean, that's not like I'm picking them to win outright. I mean, you act like I insulted your mother. Come on.
Well, you did, Pickles. You just did.
That's all right. Well, real quick, I got to go. I'm actually packing to head to Germany to watch the Seahawks tomorrow, so that'll be. I'll have to watch the game at midnight German time. Yeah. I'll be awake late for that one, but I'm gonna go. What's that?
I said enjoy it.
Yeah, and Semper Fi to you and all the Marines.
Semper Fi to the Marines. Happy birthday to Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. 247 years of fucking shit up. Earmuffs. Sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I think if the Huskies can hang on, I think we get a Kenny Wheaton moment and. They steal one late. I'm going to go 32-28 Huskies.
All right.
Yeah, wow.
Nice. I like it. Dubs up.
Go get you a rusty nail from Fremont Brewing.
Dubs up.
Good luck.
I definitely will. I got to take that, OBC.
All right, man.
All right. Bye, guys.
I got a question for Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you're a very smart young man. You're getting a lot of props in the chat from Connor Johnson. Delicious. Yeah, everybody's giving you props. I got to ask you one question, young man. Have you ever been let down by UCLA football?
I don't know if I've been picking games necessarily long enough, but yeah, I've seen
that's all I need to hear. You just answer my question, young man. All right? You're just assuming. the Pac-12 never goes all chalk, and all these veteran guys pick chalk. Somebody is going to be the mark, and when you don't know you're the mark, and that's all I'm saying right now. UCLA is going down. Okay, there you go.
Well, all I know is that I've seen UCLA get upset by a lot of times in the past. I've seen it, but I mean, I haven't picked games long because I've only been doing my channel for a couple months, so I haven't been burned by them yet. But I mean, I'll just say that this is the Pac-12 is different now. It's kind of like you were talking about before, a couple years ago, or the teams weren't as good at the top. UCLA and USC and Oregon and all these teams at the top, they have so much to play for. Utah, I just don't see them going down. I mean, they could, obviously, upsets do happen, but they should win. I mean, it's at home. All of them are at home too. That's what makes it even better. So if an upset does happen, then it's a major upset for sure.
Jeffrey, I have an actual UCLA question for you. So how far in your playoff rankings did you go beforehand? Like when you were like picking, when you were like worried about Tennessee, where Tennessee was going to be versus, where LSU was going to be vis-a-vis Oregon. Did you go further, deeper into it, or not really?
Man, I can't remember what I ranked them. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think I had UCLA as low as the rankings do right now, having a number 12. I think I had them like 10th or 11th, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, UCLA is kind of ironic to me that they are number 12. I know that, you look at the rankings and like, who would you put ahead of, but USC, and I'm not saying anything about USC, obviously. They're good. They're really good. But USC has scraped by the last couple weeks, and they're still at number 8. UCLA's down at number 12. I'm kind of shocked they're that much further down. And in someone, I can't remember if one of you guys said it or if someone else was someone of the callers. I can't remember because my mind's, I'm kind of tired. But Utah is not. Someone said Utah still had a chance. Utah does not have a chance, in my opinion. I mean, they're way too far down right now. If they won out, I don't think they
not for the playoff, but for the conference championship. Was what my point was.
Okay, but I mean, I wish Utah hadn't had that Florida loss. I really do, because that just, as much as people were talking about Oregon, Georgia, that Utah Florida game really hurt too, because Utah would still be alive as well right now. And you would have all 4 of the top Pac-12 teams would still be alive for the playoff. Utah's eliminated because of that Florida game, and which stinks, but they're still a really good team. The Pac-12 has been a lot of fun to watch this year, and I hope for the Pac-12 that none of these upsets happen, because I want UCLA, USC, and Oregon to still be in the playoff hunt. I really do. So I'm hoping none of them lose.
It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, Jeffrey, we've got something that might interest you. So, guys, there's something that kind of came up today in some discussions, and I wanted to bring into you guys a book, college football book that a lot of you guys are big college football fans, and this is written by Matt Brown, who's an amazing guy on Twitter. He runs the Extra Points newsletter and podcast, and it's a book called What If? And for Pac-12 fans, there's a couple chapters relate to the Pac-12 in this book. Including some stuff with the Pacific Coast Conference and the Airplane Conference, where we tried to add into the Pac-12 Army, Navy, Notre Dame, Air Force, Syracuse, and Penn State back in the day. And what he does, he goes in and takes a look at, like, what if these things happened in history? Like, how would things have changed? So he has one for the SEC on what if Tulane and Georgia Tech hadn't left the SEC? One for the Big Ten on what if Chicago hadn't dropped football. What if Bear Bryant had taken a different job? One of them is fascinating is what if Michigan, who got kicked out of the Big Ten at one point, stayed out of the Big Ten? What would have happened? And he does some really cool, like, re-looks at history. Anyway, there's a QR code here on the screen, guys. You can take a look at it with your phone. Check it out, add it to an Amazon cart or whatever. It's really an awesome book. And I know it sounds kind of dorky, so we're calling this Doheny's Best, our Voice of College Football Trojan Book Club, Doheny Libraries at USC. And it's just something that I think a lot of you guys would really get a kick out of. So before we wrapped up, I wanted to kind of give you guys, this is just something really, really cool to take a look at.
Not only,
really cool.
Not only are you getting college football Pac-12 information, you're getting books and beer. I mean, where else can you get that?
What else do you want in life? We got books, beer, and football.
Yeah. Nice job, Tony.
Thanks. Well, hey, Jeffrey, well, give us your final thoughts here as we get ready to wrap up.
I mean, I just think that, like I said, this is a really big week for the Pac-12. No letdowns. I mean, if you, like Rick said, I mean, usually the Pac-12 doesn't go unscathed, but if they do, I think that it's going to make it really interesting as we go down the stretch to see who's going to be able to stay in the playoff. I think all 12 teams, all the way to UCLA, still have a complete outside chance. They have a chance. That's what I'm saying right now. So I hope that continues because I want to see as many teams as possible still have a chance to make the playoff. I make it interesting instead of it getting like to the point where a lot of teams are eliminated. But I think it's a big week for the Pac-12, and I think a lot of teams that are maybe you could say on upset alert, I think they're going to get it done. But we could be looking past Saturday and maybe UCLA goes down. Who knows? So it's going to be interesting.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeffrey.
you. I was glad to be on. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Jeffrey.
All right, Chris, what are your final thoughts?
So I thought that USC was going to beat Arizona, score 1,000 points or something. I think that people think that USC's offense is a little bit better than UCLA's, so I'll say that we score 950. Even though you guys kind of let us down by only scoring 1,000. But yeah, no, it's an interesting week. The Oregon-Washington game is like kind of a little appetizer for me for the main course of next week. But hopefully everyone holds serve. Hopefully we hold serve. Like, granted, I'm picking us to win. I would be shocked if we lost, but crazy things do happen. But I'm looking forward to the week, and then I'm looking forward to the big showdown at the Rose Bowl the week after. And go Bruins! Thanks everyone for calling in and for chatting it up, and appreciate all of you. Great calls. Thank you so much. Love doing this.
Love having you here, Chris. Thank you.
You're awesome, Chris, man. Good luck this weekend.
And thanks for the stats.
Chris is the man. All right, LBC, what do you think?
I think, this is an unusual week in the Pac-12. I looked at all the games. I made my picks. And, honestly, I don't think UCLA should lose, but maybe they're looking towards USC. I hope they don't lose because I want a highly ranked UCLA team. So, and they're having a great year. And I think Oregon's having a great year. It's great to see kind of what Chris was saying, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Utah having the years that they're having this late in the season. So this is I'm going to call this TCB. I know Mark Rogers is a big fan of Elvis Presley. So am I, the king. His motto was taking care of business. This is the Pac-12, the big boys taking care of business. And we all got to go out there and put a number on the competition. So we'll see what happens. I appreciate all the callers, all the people that came in reviewing in the chat. Hit the like button. If you like the content, please subscribe. We'd love to have you join us and get updates and support the Mark Rogers Voice of College Football channel. I thank Mark for allowing us to have this platform talking Pac-12 football, something that we care deeply about. And it's great to hang out with Chris, Tony, and Tim on a Wednesday. So thank you, gentlemen, and good luck to all the favorites this weekend. Fight on.
Right on, Tony. Oh, Rick, sorry, my bad. Do you want to address the Zach T really quick?
Special thank you to Zach. We really appreciate that. I like your bold prediction that nobody gets out of the pack without 2 L's. That is very, very, very possible. So we'll see what happens with that. I like it, Zach. And Zach, thank you for watching the show and calling in the show. We really appreciate it, and we're glad to have you.
Yeah, really Zach's been a great long time supporter of the show, and we do really appreciate you being here. I don't know if I agree with 2 losses, but it's gonna be amazing if I'm just can't get over how wonderful. What a great year, Tony and Rick and Chris, to start this Pac-12 channel. I mean, this year has not disappointed. We still have some big games, probably the biggest games leading up, coming up pretty soon. I have it's so hard doing the power rankings because you could argue for any one of the top 4. I kind of threw it. I thought Ben would be in earlier to discuss the Oregon, but I really think that any one of those teams on any given day could be that number 1 slot. And then once you get down earlier to, I was talking about the Oregon State, in that realm, and Washington. Washington, Oregon State. You could flip flop those guys all day long as well. So I've been really happy enjoying Pac-12 football. I think people are now nationally talking about Pac-12 in a positive light. And I like the way Tony put it. This is what the Pac-12 is. This was traditionally been. We have not been the doormat that ESPN's tried to label us. This is the Pac, and we are good. And we have at least 2 more years of us all being together, this and next year. So hopefully we can end it on a bang. Thank you guys all for tuning.
Thank you. So I want to first of all thank you guys for joining, and I really want to thank Mark Rogers for giving us this chance tonight. But I want to wrap up with talking about something that I think is a little bit different, and that is that there's something kind of wild going on. Guys, Arizona has been in the conference the longest without playing a game in the Rose Bowl, without actually making the Rose Bowl. And this weekend, Arizona goes to the Rose Bowl for what will probably be, at least for the foreseeable future, the last time that Arizona goes to the Rose Bowl. And there's a lot of symbolism for them because Arizona's who brought Arizona and Arizona State into this conference in 1978 because they believed that the Pac-12 was their path to build a better athletic and academic university. And Arizona State came kicking and screaming because they founded the Fiesta Bowl. They were proud of the WAC, and Arizona State and Arizona both believe that it's the best thing that has ever happened to their university. And it's why all this nonsense about Arizona to the Big 12 was absolutely never going to happen. But it's a time of change. And to folks who are a little worried about that change, remember that this is a conference that has always had change. It's always had drama, and it's always had change. And if we bring in San Diego State and SMU, that's kind of exciting change too. And just like going to the desert has become a big thing, and that was wild 40 years ago for people, going to Dallas, going to the beach in San Diego, like that's going to be a new thing, and it's going to be exciting. And we don't know if it's going to happen, but think about it, guys, as something that's exciting. Do you guys know about Boulevard season at SMU? Guess what? It's probably better than the Grove at Ole Miss. It's wild and super fun. So take a minute, learn about the traditions of these teams that may be coming into this conference. They're really great. They have there's more tradition at SMU right now than any of the teams that are going to be the new teams in the Big 12. Literally, the Doak Walker Award is for SMU. I mean, they have national champions. This is a school with amazing, amazing traditions. And San Diego State is a scrappy school that has done nothing but build itself into a world-class university. And I think their next step is to be in this conference. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to find out. But whatever it is, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be different. But the Pac-12 has always been about different. We grew from a couple of schools to be big in the Pacific Coast Conference. It fell apart. It came back together, added and grew, and we're always growing and changing. And so think about that with the expansion. Whatever happens, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be different. So as always, fight on. But also, just in case, go Aztecs and pony up. We'll see you guys next week. Fight on.